Yeah, hello again. Today we are going to cover chapter 10, bonds and stocks. Okay, what are the characteristics and the simple valuation of them? So our chapter starts first by bonds. What are bonds actually? So bond is an agreement between two parties. According to this agreement, so one party lends some money to the other party in return of some interest rates. Okay. So let me clarify it a little bit further here. Assume we have Y and X parties. Okay. So typically this can be a firm, and this can be investor. Okay, so firms need to borrow money, so what they do, they issue a bond. Okay, and I would say firms or governments. So issues a bond. Okay, so what is this bond? In this bond, it has been placed that how much money this company or the government wants to borrow. Okay, typically each bond consists of $1,000. Now, so government is borrower and investors or individuals, okay, are lenders. Okay, so why the bond issuer is the borrower, the one who buys the bond is the lender. Okay, so seller, buyer. So the borrower is lender. Sorry, the borrower is the seller and the lender is the buyer. Okay, so as we said, there will be a par value, the amount that is required, the amount that has been borrowed or lended. Okay, and we have also the coupon rate. So this is equivalent to interest rate. Okay, sorry for that, it's because of I have to remove that one, sorry. So it is the same as interest rate. Okay, so the guy borrows $1,000, but in return every year they are paying a percentage of this par value or face value. Face value. Both are the same. Okay. Now, The coupon rate is obvious. So it's interest rate, 3%, 2%, 1%. Sorry for inconvenient sound, it comes from outside. The bond has maturity as well. So it matures in 1 year, 2, or 3, actually the standard 3, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. So over all those specific periods until the bond matures due to the maturity, every year the buyer or the lender will receive interest rate, coupon rate, okay, on the fixed schedule. So here is one example over here, as we have this assumes the par value to be $1,000. Annual interest rate or coupon rate is 8%. It means the guy will receive $80 every year, okay? And the payments can be annually or semi-annually, actually. So assuming $80, the guy will receive $240 every 6 months in a year. So every 6 months receives $40, okay? Until the bond matures, until the bond ends. Okay? So what are the features, characteristics of the bond? We have them here. So represents borrowed fund, okay? So this bond, which is placed on an official paper agreement between the two parties, lender and the borrower, seller and the buyer of the bond, okay? Represent the borrowed fund. So how you prove that you lended that guy money? You have to have an official document in your hand, okay? So contractual agreement in the indenture, okay, between the two, borrower and the lender. So it's an agreement, okay? This bond represents the agreement between the two parties, borrower and the lender. And it has a senior claim on asset. So what does we mean by that? When every company each year or each period, specific period, they are calculating their income, okay? So the one who gets paid after everything will be the borrowers, the creditors first, okay? First, company has to pay to the creditors, to the lenders, and then pays to the shareholders. Okay, so they have a senior claim. That's what we mean by senior claim. First, company pays to them, and even in terms of bankruptcy. Okay, so before the company has been, okay, the company will be liquidated. Okay, so the first guys who receive the share from this liquidation are the lenders. Okay, so it has a par value, as we said, like the amount that have been borrowed. So the bonds will be rated. Okay, so in the next slide I'll go over that. I think it's the next slide. Oh, the one after that. Okay, so bond rating is important. Oh, it's a covenant as well. So no explanation for that if you understand the meaning of covenant. So there's an interest on the bond. As we said, it's the price of the bond. Okay, the price of loanable fund. Okay, that will be fixed, and it's different from a company to another company, from this government to another government. Okay, it depends on the borrower. Okay, so and what's the factor that affects the interest rate? The most important one is the default rate. Okay, the riskiness of the lender, the riskiness of the lender. Okay, so maturity, of course, there is a maturity for the bond, unless we have a specific bonds that can be redeemed before the maturity. We will go over them. Okay, but there is always a maturity over here. Security can have a senior claim on a specific asset pledged in case of default. Okay, in case of default, in case of bankruptcy, it means in case of bankruptcy. So this is what we are calling subordinates. The bond. So that was the common elements, common characteristics of bonds. So we have types of bond. Okay, I mean, in this category we have many specific types of bond. So the major ones are two mechanisms of bond. Okay, registered bonds are those between the lender and the borrower. Okay, it's registered. So in this example, for example, so X receives interests, and the principal of face value, okay, at the end of the maturity. So only X will receive that one. So Y knows, the lender knows who is receiving the interests and the principals at the end of the maturity. So at the maturity anyway. Okay, but what about bearer bond? Okay, that was registered bond. What about bearer bond? In the bearer bond, the bond can, X can sell it to Z. Okay, Z to S, S to B, and so on. Okay, so on. So that's the investors will sell among themselves, looking for an return. Okay, looking for an extra earnings. And that, how that would happen when the coupon rate, the market interest rate, is different from this coupon rate, then there is an opportunity to make some money, selling the bond before the maturity. Okay, before the maturity. So the lender in this bond never knows who's receiving the interests or who is receiving the principal at the end of the day. So who holds the bond certification? He is the bond owner. Okay, he is the guy who receives coupons. Okay, so that's the difference between two essential types of bonds. We have different types of bonds, but essentially based on the agreements we have these two bonds. Okay, so another important topic here, or question here actually, who buys bond? Okay, anyone can buy bond, but the most common one and the big proportion, the largest proportion of the bonds goes to the individual investors like me, you, any other investor, or the large institutions, pension funds, insurance companies, for example, for investment purpose, and banks also can buy. So banks are also financial institutions. Okay, basically those financial institutions have the task to transfer money or to lend and borrow on interest rates. So that's the major job actually. Okay, so as we said, bonds will be ranked. What do we mean by that? So Moody's and Standard & Poor's. So there are categories for ranking. These guys, Fitch, Standard & Poor's, and Moody's, categorize the bonds. What do we mean by that? They categorize the companies, the lenders, the borrowers, those who want to raise funds, those who need money to borrow. Okay? So, and they categorize such as, for example, AAA, AA plus, AA, AA minus, A plus. So AAA is the best quality. So what do we mean by best quality? There is no risk that this guy will go default and do not pay back the money. So we don't afraid. They are paying back this money. Okay, so these guys are not that qualified, but no risk as well. And that's how it comes down up to here. But when we receive here, actually BBA1 here should be the BBA1 here. Okay, those guys are risky, and the bonds that issued by this company, which will be included in this area, BB1 or BB plus or lower, those bonds is so-called junk bonds. Okay, so you are not sure that they will be able to pay you back or not. Okay, so you may think like, okay, we have the categories of bank rating of bonds over here, but what does this tells us? It tells us like when this category company over here goes to borrow money, They will charge, there will be an extra charge premium for the riskiness of this company. Okay, for the riskiness of this company. Okay, let me clarify within one example over here. Assume we have AAA rating company, AAA, okay, and let's say triple B company, and we have also triple C company. Okay, this is an extreme example just for clarification. So if a company here goes to borrow money, they can receive fund for the interest rate of, let's say, 2%. Okay, but what about this guy? This guy can receive only for 4%. But what about this guy? This can be charged for 10% because they are risky. There's the risk of default associated with these guys. Okay, so as it is here, junk bonds, high yield bonds, bonds with the rating that are below investment grade, okay, that's rated BA1 and BB plus according to this criteria, Standard & Poor's. Okay, so if this guy, anyone who wants to pay to lend money to this guy, they will charge an extra interest rate for the premium of risk. Okay, so we said we have many different types of bonds, so let's go over them and discuss them. So be with me, these are very important and any time can be asked in the exam actually. We have mortgage bonds, okay, so I don't want to extend and I will simplify it for you maximum level. Okay, so mortgage bonds are backed or secured by a property. So when the borrower borrows fund, they are putting the house, a building, a land, a piece of property, okay, as a collateral that they are paying back this money. Okay, so what about debenture bonds? There is no collateral, no property. Okay, it's just an agreement between two parties. So can me, for example, can I go to the market and issue such a debenture bond? No, because your reputation in the market is very important. Normal individuals cannot do that. So the companies can do that. Apple company can do that. Okay, Toyota company can do that. Japanese government can do that. New York municipality can do that. Okay, there will be no collateral, but you trust them, you know them. Okay, also we have convertible bonds. Okay, convertible bonds are, for example, a guy lends money to one bond, okay, one bond is outstanding for Microsoft company. So instead of getting back my money, okay, I'm the buyer of the bond. Instead of getting back my money, I'm asking the company, the Microsoft company, to convert my bond to a common stocks, shares of the company. Okay, So these bonds can be converted to common stocks of the issuer based on the investor's demand. So only investor can demand that. But if the company, Microsoft company, tell me like I'm shifting, I'm converting your bond, your money to our stocks, I can reject that. But if I require that, the company cannot reject. Anyway, so there is no reason to reject. There is always some shares to buy. So on the specific price, they will convert your debt to their shares. We have also callable bonds. Okay, in this time, if we have, for example, the Microsoft company has an outstanding bond for 5 years and 2 years passed, so we have 3 years left. Okay, but if the bond is callable bond, so before the maturity they can redeem the bond. Okay, they will call the guy, the lender, and say, okay, here is your money back and goodbye. Okay, so the guy cannot reject that if the bond is callable bond. Okay, so puttable bond is another one, but this time the investor wants to redeem the bond. Okay, the same as callable bond, but the claim is from the investor. Okay, we have also extendable bonds or notes. Note is the bond but less maturity anyway. So in this type of bond, the agreement can be like 2 years 5% interest rate. Okay, but there's an option that can be this: after 2 years the bond can be redeemed, or based on the both parties agreement, due to the change in the quality of the company or due to the environmental or market interest rate or economic conditions, they can set up a new, after 2 years, for example, a new interest rate for new period. Here's 6% for 3 more years. Okay, years. So that's what they can do based on the agreement. So it's extendable. Okay, it's extendable. We have also sinking funds. You don't need to confuse with that. Actually, it's a kind of saving money for a portion of the money for retirement. So, but it has legal power, and it becomes obligation rather than you want to do it willingly. Okay, and we have also zero coupon bonds. So they will keep all the money, $1,000, and all the interest rates. In our previous example, if the coupon rate is 8, so every year $80 will be accumulated, and you will get all the coupons and the principal at the maturity date when the bond is finished. Okay, so what are these bonds actually? Are they magical things that we can never see, or no? When you enter the market, you'll see such a quotations as given here. Okay, so here is the bonds outstanding for Ford company. Okay, and it will be in this format, more or less, but standard format is this. Okay, so what's the coupon? It's 7%. It means for $1,000 coupon rate, you have $70 coupon annually. Okay, and what's the maturity? 2021. So we could consider this for 1 year if now we are in 2020, but that can be for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. That's all. What's the last price? The last price is $1,172.6. So now you get confused. As the par value is $1,000, what does it mean to be a price for this? Okay, there's a price, as we said. So bearer bonds, you can sell it to another guy for profit before the maturity. Okay. We have also last yield, which is 3.76% over here. Sorry. Over here. Okay. So this is yield to maturity. We may cover it later on. Yield to maturity 3.76%. And here is 2.36 spread between the yield to maturity and treasury bills, government bills, okay? Government bonds. Okay? And the bond is outstanding. Okay, this government bonds for 5 years. Okay? So here's the spread. So what does that tell us? Okay? Let me go to this. Ford companies, okay, Ford bond, okay? It means that Ford are willing to borrow money and that rate. Yield to maturity is 0.0376. I will convert this into percentage. Okay. And what about the spread? Okay, that was yield to maturity. Spread and T note. Here we have the spread, which is 0.036. And now it means like government bond, T bonds, T notes, treasury notes is on which rate? The difference between these two. 1.40% rate, okay? That's the rate of government bond at that time. So if you want to buy a government bond, you will be paid 1.40%. But if you buy a Ford company's bond, you will be paid 3.76 at this time. That's the yield to maturity, but originally you will be paid 7% coupon. Okay, so don't get confused with yield to maturity and coupon rate and interest rate, treasury bills, or market interest rate. So you will get used to them. Okay. So, and the last thing is here the volume. So in thousands, it means 230 millions of bonds are outstanding there. It means Ford company is at that time has owed or borrowed $230 million. Okay. Now, so bond valuations, as we said, okay, we have a fixed coupon rate over here, but what about the market interest rate? Okay, the rate of return by investors. What about that one? So those affects the bond price. Okay, so how we calculate the bond price? We are using this formula. Okay, so what's the bond value? I will ask you this typical question. What's the bond value? And you will calculate it for me using this formula. Okay, what does this mean? What does that mean? Let's solve this example over here. So a 20-year maturity bond. Okay, let me go over the formula before I get into the example. So bond value is C. C is coupons. Okay, coupons. What do we mean by coupons? If the coupon rate is 7, we mean $70. If the coupon rate is 5, we mean 5%. We mean $50. Okay, now, okay, so we have a parenthesis over here, 1 minus 1 divided by 1 plus R. R is the rate of return by investors or market interest rate. So any other rate which is given here, okay, in the example, in the question. To the power of t. What's t? T is the maturity. How many years is this bond? 20 years in this case. Okay. And R is the same rate of return by investors. What's F? F is face value. Face value. So we mean $1,000. Okay. And we have also divided by 1 plus R, again, rate of return required by investors, to the power of t, in this case, is 20. Okay, so let me go over this example, and by the way, the answer is this. So you should practice at home and reach to this answer. Okay, if you not, it means you have a problem. Check your calculations and learn how to use your calculator in these types to the power of t or whatever. Now we have a 20-year maturity bond. Okay, so t equals 20. Payments of $50. Coupon payments. C equals $50. And now C equals $50. Okay, so $50. Okay, so what about coupon rate? Equals $50 divided by 1,000, which will be 5%. Okay, 5%. So I may not give you the coupon payment. I may give you a coupon rate of 5%. So you will find $50 over here. Okay, and now par value, which is the same as face value, F equals $1,000, and R equals 0.08%. What's the bond value? Okay, Okay, so it's your choice how you wanna calculate. Okay, but I'll simplify it. I'll calculate the upper denominator over here, this part separately, and I'll put this. I will calculate this part separately, and then we will end up with the calculations. By the way, there is a function in Excel, but you should use your calculator in the exam and calculate this. Okay, now we have, or I could do it together. No. So let's calculate the denominator over here. 1 minus 1 divided by 1 plus 0.8 to the power of 20 to the power of 20. Sorry, 20. Let me have an equal here. And these all divided by 0. Or let's say R. Okay, so far I have that one over there. What about this part? What about this part? Equal F divided by 1 plus R to the power of 20, T to the power of 20. So I have both these two. Now what's the bond value? Equals coupons multiplied by the denominator plus this one. So we have the bond price. Although the par value is $1,000, I lended $1,000. But if I sell my money, if I sell my bond right now and don't wait for the maturity, so I can sell it only for $705 and half. Why? Because the interest rate in the market is higher than the coupon rate. Okay, so when coupon rate is higher than interest rate, or I wouldn't say interest rate, let's say R, because we have several terminologies for this. Higher than this, the bond price will be less than face value, which is $1,000. Okay, when coupon rate is lower than R, the bond price will be higher than face value. Okay, so when you see the question, immediately you will understand that, okay, coupon rate here is 5%, interest rate is 8%. Okay, so I'm expecting the answer to be less than $1,000. Okay, immediately you can check your answer whether it's correct or not. What about when CR is equal to my apologies for this, I think I have a mistake over here, so those should be replaced. Okay, when CR is lower and when I state them inversely. Okay, so you don't make a mistake for this. So when CR is equal to R, the bond price is equals the face value. No change. Okay, you don't get anything and you don't lose anything if you sell your bond right away. So that was all about bonds, and I'm going to cover stocks or common equities in the next video.